Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Wow, that malicious compliance certainly worked out very well for you, OP. That apology was a pretty nice insurance policy, and they knew it. So they figured the quickest way to get you gone and save face would be to promote you the hell out of there. Bravo. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. I merely wanted to apologize thoroughly for lack of how things worked. I was in the Army and stationed in Korea, formerly enlisted but now a freshly minted second lieutenant / butterbar. I'm going to save a lot of time by just saying the battalion I was assigned to was one of a nightmare units people with 20 to 30-year careers in the Army claim to have never encountered. I was new as a lieutenant and there to do two jobs, my professional one, not mentioning to keep from implicating unit, and to take care of my troops. So yes, guilt by complicity. I kept my head down, took care of my guys, and did my job rocking the boat as little as possible. Plus, sorry, brand new butterbar against a colonel and the majority of the battalion staff equals career over and possibly even jail time, even if I was in the right. Fast forward several months. I'm a loyal man and had already annoyed command because I'd gotten married just before shipping over to Korea in the unit. While other officers had enlisted girlfriends or favorite hookers / drinky girls, I took extra duties, covered watch shifts and duties, and let them have their fun. My first wedding anniversary was coming up, though, and I wanted to fly my wife to Korea to join me for a couple weeks and so we could go out to dinner for our first anniversary. I submit the needed papers to command. Approved, no problem, even though my anniversary falls on the same date as the planned battalion / branch annual ball. I make the arrangements and she comes to join me for a couple weeks. Once she's in country, though, I get informed that my attendance will be mandatory and that spouses will not be allowed. I also find out they're planning booze and strippers for the ball. I complain and the battalion S1 calls me in, tells me I at least need to buy my ticket to support the unit and thus would be in attendance. Wink, wink. Yes, he literally gave me 2 winks. So I did, paid for my tickets, but went out for the night with my wife instead. The next day I'm called in and read the Riot Act, behavior unbecoming, disobeying a direct order, etc., etc., but they're just going to give me a written reprimand and some extra duties for a month, no biggie. They're being nice. As I said earlier, though, prior enlisted former NCO sergeant, I knew something like that in the file was a career ender for an officer. Then the S1, a major, said it. Maybe if you write a good apology, considering your newness, they'll take that into consideration, and my light bulb went off. The document had a comment section for the accused. I thanked him and went to write my apology. The thing is, I knew they might try to screw me at some point because, unlike them, I was not dirty and they had nothing on me, so I started recording everything and I had my notebook with me. I wrote out everything in the form of an apology. I apologized for my lack of understanding of how things worked properly and pledged to find an enlisted girlfriend to move into my barracks with me, just like insert name and ranks of 3 officers I knew had been doing so. I apologized and pledged to be more a team activities participant. Enter details of 2 separate times the unit had morale functions and rented entire bars to include paying for the rooms for the night of all the girls who worked there and lived upstairs. Yes, drinky girls / hookers who worked the bar and took clients upstairs to their rooms for better tips. I apologized and pledged to encourage troops to go see the chaplain and pay for private counseling sessions with the assistants, even though they could get it cheaper on the local economy, etc., etc. I filled the comment section, added a See Attached page, and filled out another entire sheet of official government paperwork front and back. When I was done, I signed everything and handed it to the S1 for review. At first, he was all smiles, but as he reviewed my comment, I've never seen a man turn that shade of red, leaning towards purple before. I'd listed enough infractions to not only end the whole chain of command's careers, but send many of them to jail for a long time. My career was not ending alone. To his credit, he didn't scream at me after finishing reading what I wrote. He composed himself, regained some color, and politely told me that I could not write that on there and that he would print me another copy. He almost exploded when I told him, no, that I'm sorry, sir, that's my apology and my comments in the comment block, and I refuse to sign any documents without it included. You would swear he was staring down a demon as he turned red again when I added, "But if you like, sir, if I understand correctly, you can take it to legal to request it all be removed. Then you can keep it without my apology." He sat there fuming for way too long. I was actually thinking he might explode and strike me at any moment when, very quietly, he told me to get out. I give him a crisp, "Yes, sir," as I snapped a salute, which earned me a sharp, "Get out," as he pointed to the door, and I just left. I had no more duties that day, and my wife was still there. I figured I was screwed, so we went shopping off post, and I told her everything. We readied for the worst. The next day, every senior officer I ran into in my chain of command was very polite and even helpful. Stayed that way for about 2 weeks, during which time my wife returned to the States. Then I got called up to see the battalion commander in front of formation. He presented me with early orders for promotion to first lieutenant, and in front of the whole battalion informed me that he had been informed that there were openings in the upcoming Ranger School class and said he could think of no one better to go. He offered to get me in, but I would have to clear command and be ready to leave Korea in like 5 days' time. I thanked him heartily. He shook my hand, congratulating me, said I should get to it then, and sent me back to my platoon. Formation was dismissed, and I spent the next several days getting all the help I needed to get out of there as fast as possible. And our second story. You want to play games? Sure. But I bet I'm better at them. I drive a truck out of the same warehouse every night. I show up at midnight, get my paperwork, and deliver the load on that paperwork. Most nights, I get the same run, which is scheduled to leave the warehouse at 2:30. I show up so early in case they need me to pull a different load. I've been there for close to 2 years now and always got along with everybody for my first year. About 9 months ago, they hired a new dispatcher, the person who hands me the paperwork, and she started implying she was interested in me. She'd compliment my looks and ask me about my day and stuff like that. After a few months of this, I asked her out. She agreed. I scheduled a date, and all was well. When the date came up, she canceled last minute and asked to reschedule. She never got back to me, and I never reached out again. No big deal. This is pretty typical behavior in modern dating. We still saw each other at work and got along well enough. I treated her like any other coworker, and she did the same. That is until about 3 months ago anyway. I came in and got my normal run, which leaves at 2:30. Since I have some time to kill, I go hang out with a buddy who's close by, something I do quite often and everyone's cool with it. As long as I deliver on time, that's all that matters. I came back at 1:45 and found out my truck needed repairs, so I went into dispatch to ask for a different one. The dispatcher gets snotty and starts yelling at me about how they couldn't track me. We were constantly monitored by GPS while on duty, but I wasn't on duty yet, so there's no need to track me. I argued back for a little bit and eventually just sighed and said, "Can I please just get another truck so I can deliver on time like I planned?" She throws a key at me. I go do my job just as well as any other day. All goes well for the next 2 months or so. I still see her every day, but I keep conversation to a minimum and do my job. One day I come in and find out they don't have a load for me. That's not uncommon, and I get paid just to be on call, so I'm content. I go hang out with a buddy as usual and await the call to either come in for a load or get relief for the day. She calls at about 1 a.m. and says, "Come in when you get a minute." I say, "Okay," and she hangs up. I show up in about 5 to 10 minutes, and she tells me that another driver didn't show up for his shift, so she called me in for his run. He actually showed up a few minutes late between the phone call and my arrival, so she gave him his usual run and said they didn't have anything for me. She then proceeds to scold me for taking too long to get there, saying the load would have been late. I would have had about 4 hours to do a 2.5-hour drive. It would have been late. At this point, I'm 99% sure she's screwing with me, so I just say, "Okay," and I turn around and leave. About 20 minutes later, I get another call saying I have a run. I go in and get the paperwork to start my day. This run was on a tight schedule due to poor planning. It could have left the warehouse earlier, but it didn't, and now there's only a 15-minute margin of error. I notice there's an issue with its trailer. It's nothing dangerous, but it's technically illegal and shouldn't be on the road. Normally, I'd just pull the trailer and report the issue when I got back since it isn't dangerous, but not today. I bring the trailer to the site shop for repairs, but the mechanic couldn't fix it. At this point, dispatch is calling me, asking me why I haven't left the warehouse yet, so I fill them in. I tell them I'm not pulling a trailer with any flaws and we need to load the product into another trailer. They agree because it's illegal for them to make me drive a vehicle I'm not comfortable with, and we get started. It took about an hour to move the contents of the trailer into a new one, so at this point, I'm running about 30 to 45 minutes late. I just sat in my truck browsing Reddit while the warehouse did all the work. I ended up getting to my delivery about an hour late, which makes dispatch and the whole company look bad. I apologized to the customer and explained the problem. I've delivered there before and they like me, so it's all good. Dispatch hasn't played any games with me since. I'm hoping they got the message that I won't be a pushover. Wow, impressive to have somehow ruined a relationship you didn't have with a date that didn't happen. And our last story. My mechanic closed his shop and disappeared with my truck. My mechanic, Bill, was taking forever to swap the engine on my old project truck. I paid half the labor cost up front and have a receipt for $350. I wasn't surprised that it took over a year with COVID and whatnot. We live out in BF nowhere. Bill would check in with updates and I would find/purchase the parts the shop needed. I saw progress on the vehicle multiple times. They eventually got it running and said they just needed to fix the muffler to be street legal before I could pay them and pick it up. I gave them a few weeks but never heard back. And in September 2022, I still couldn't get in contact with Bill. Phone was cut off and the business said permanently closed on Google. Shop was empty. Bill had previously mentioned they were trying to move to an area about 15 minutes away. I drove around looking for a mechanic shop, but there wasn't one. Locals had never heard of them. At this point, I contacted the sheriff's office and reported it stolen. When someone told me they bought a car from Bill a town over, I called and gave them that info. They tracked him down and got my car back. I'm suing him and going to get a lot of money or put him in jail. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.